Hello, friends. Welcome to Nirpa's Talk Show. Today, I have very special guest, Roshan Cariappa. Uh, he is an startup veteran, uh, having a vast experience in the field of sales and marketing and also other industry domains. Primarily, he is engaging in couple of years in financial sector and helping for overall marketing strategy and sales strategy for large number of startup and enterprise organizations. Currently, he is basically he was a co-founder and CEO of Wolf Labs, which is an integrated sales platform where he led a couple of digital transformation journey for many organizations. Currently, he is working as a vice president for one of the fastest growing startup called Vymo, which is again a sales engagement platform, uh, which is very popular and working for large number of customers across the globe. Here he again leading a, sales and marketing team distributed globally and helping for different financial institutions in overall transformation journey. Apart from his organizational responsibility, he is also engaged with uh, different startups, investors, industry leaders in different events, and thereby empowering the industry ecosystem and the society at large. Today, I am very glad that Roshanji has accepted my invitations and ready to share his experience and thoughts with all of you. Hello, Roshanji, welcome.
Thank you, Nirpaji. Very, very glad to be here. Delighted to be here. Namaste, everyone. And yeah, looking forward to an engaging session.
Yeah, thank you, Roshanji. So without making further delay, right, let's talk about overall the post-COVID digital transformation journey, right? The digital transformations has rapidly evolved over the past couple of years. And it has, as you all know, digital, particularly post-COVID has made a great impact across different industries in terms of adopting technology, collaborations, and knowledge dissipations as in general, right? But at the same time, there is much more challenges for any organization as far as digital transformation journey. So you being very closely associated with technology industry primarily, I would love to hear from you. What are the key focus area for any organizations, either it is startup or enterprise, as far as digital transformation journey is concerned?
Thank you so much for the question again. I think it's a question that I have pondered about, reflected upon for many hours, and really, I mean, what has happened over the last couple of years has been extraordinary, right? I mean, both for startups and SMBs as well as for large enterprises, because oftentimes when you spoke about IT or digital, you always got this question: how do you align priorities? Abhi, there is no difference between business or IT priorities. I mean, it's completely 100% overlapped, right? I mean, that's what COVID has done, right? And there's no question of putting the cart before the horse, right? You can't put the business. I mean, you can't put the tech before the business. Abhi, I mean, the business and the technology goals and objectives are almost 100% aligned, right? And I'll talk about a couple of different things. One is, what has happened at large enterprises, and then the other, what's happened at startups and SMBs. Now, in the larger enterprises, the IT and the CIO offices have really evolved, right? I mean, there is this emerging phenomena of business tech, for example, that has really come into prominence. And these folks are, not your conventional, technology or IT folks. I mean, these guys have business backgrounds, in fact. Right. One of the things that we did at Vymo post 2020 was to have conversations with about 15 leading CIOs and IT heads of banks and insurers in India. And when we had these conversations, we were really blown away by the amount of business depth that they had, right? And quite a few of them were from a core operations or a business background, actually. And the way they could straddle both business and technology, talk about both these terminologies and have a good understanding of both, right, was really phenomenal to witness, and that's really what's happened on the large enterprise side, right? Where, I mean, it's not, either business chasing IT or IT chasing business. I mean, today there is this whole business tech phenomena where people are really thinking of tech as not just an enabler, but as front and center, right? Because
Exactly.
if you look at the last couple of years, I mean, we did not face any major disruptions in terms of like whether it was insurance premiums being paid out or whether cash being available at banks and so on and so forth, right? And that's actually miraculous, I mean, I was talking to the head of IT at one of the leading NBFCs, and they have these gold loans and everything, right? I mean, where they have to actually literally move physical assets. And she was telling me how even though COVID happened, there was zero disruptions to all of their business activities, which is again, pretty remarkable if you think about the level up to which it was managed, right? I mean, so yeah, I mean, we're coming up on 2 years of almost, I think, 2 years of Janta curfew, right? And
Yeah,
it's great looking back that nothing significant has really broken, and kudos to all of our IT leaders, the business leaders who've sort of made sure that they made sure that business works as usual, right? So and while business continuity was the first and major ask at the beginning, what we're now seeing is that business and digital and IT are like leading the foray, right? I mean, they're
exactly.
leading the charge in terms of what more can be done, right?
Correct.
I mean, I'll give you the simple example of, for example, let's say chatbots, right? I mean, the first, I think, major ask for every bank or insurance company in the beginning of 2020 was to have chatbots installed, and so that they could automate all of these conversations, and all of your service center stuff could be like completely seamless and everything. But today, I mean, the use cases for chatbots have gone beyond that, right? I mean, we're actually thinking about how can we drive customer delight, how can we increase share of wallet, how can we do a lot of stuff on the sales and customer experience side of things, right?
Yep.
And that itself reflects, I mean, all the use cases are becoming larger than what it was intended to be initially, right? Now that's on the large enterprise side of things. And if you look at SMBs, right, I mean, again, digital was something that was fringe, something that was nice to have earlier. But then, I mean, what COVID showed was, I mean, your business can vanish overnight if you're not, if you don't have a digital strategy, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, if you look at the kind of digital enablement that there is for SMBs today, it's really remarkable. I have sold, software and digital to SMBs. SMBs in India are very, very picky buyers, and they're perhaps, one of the toughest people to sell to, right? Because they're extremely value conscious. They're extremely, they're what do you say? I mean, they're very difficult to sell to, right? I mean, they don't pay very easily for intangibles and things like that, right? But the number of solutions that has emerged for SMBs. We had Mr. Kumar Wembu of GoFrugal earlier on the podcast on Startup Operator, and he's been building for this for 12, 13 years actually, right? And he has seen the whole evolution. And he was talking about how post COVID, I mean, things have really evolved, and small retailers are asking for core technology asks from him, right? Which is amazing.
Yeah.
And today, I mean, as an SMB, there is plug and play infrastructure for you, whether on technology, logistics, whatever, right? I mean, I often say that on the podcast that you could start a business in a weekend, these days. So that is happening, and also, I mean, I think there is also a realization among second generation entrepreneurs, especially right in family businesses, who want to continue danda, right? I mean, so earlier business was not a cool kind of a thing, right? But Abhi, I mean, startups are in vogue, right? And the family businesses and their heirs realize that I can actually make this business digital first, right? And so I've had more than a couple of entrepreneurs who are second generation, third generation entrepreneurs, and who are really making their decades old businesses more digital first actually. So net, I would say that COVID has been a force multiplier, right? I mean, all of these trends were slowly coming to life, but COVID has sort of snapped the fingers and made it a reality almost overnight, I would say.
Yeah. Thank you, Roshanji. I think you have beautifully articulated overall digital transformation that is happening post-COVID, right? I mean, both in the small scale industries and the large scale industries. Primarily, as you rightly said, something pre-COVID, something was nice to have. Today, it is a must have, right?
Absolutely.
And the overall, the Since ecosystem evolved, everybody has empowered, either it is small scale or bigger, larger enterprises. Uh, Probably, as you rightly says, the digital transformations journey that is happening across the retail sectors, across the groceries and small organizations, and making overall digital transformation journey. And I wish and I hope that this kind of small organization, especially from India, will able to reach the customer across the country and probably globally, and that will empower our
Oh, absolutely.
startup visions in India, and
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. No, absolutely. And see the second order effects of what some of these startups are building, right? Whether it's technology infrastructure for the plug and play infrastructure that I mentioned, I mean, it can have a compounding impact really, because if you look at the number of, let's say, D2C brands that have come up, right? I mean, see earlier, I mean, if you had to build a D2C brand, you would have to go up against a Unilever or a Marico or whoever else. And that is a crazy ask, right? For any chota mota, whatever retailer. But today, I mean, with the emergence of D2C, with the emergence of this plug and play infrastructure, people are no longer hesitating to turn their ideas into products and products into companies,
Exactly.
and yeah, and that can again, that can have that compounding effect really.
Yeah. Today, if you see that, especially I follow some of this online content, but which has been circulated from our Indian technology leader, the content creator. I mean, the amount of content that has been come, and they are able to target the customer across the globe. I think that has happened because
Mm.
of the digital marketing become kind of hand holding tools for any entrepreneurs who want to reach the customer across the globally, right?
Yeah,
If the
yeah.
digital marketing would not have been there, we could not imagine that our content creator could have been reached such a large scale customers.
No, and
It's just one
absolutely, and
example.
yeah, and I'll tell you, I mean, Indians are amazing at realizing value, right? I mean,
Exactly.
and we took to digital way sooner than I think many other parts of the world, right?
Exactly.
And I would hazard a guess and say, I mean, if you were to pick the top 20 best or 20 or 30 best digital marketers in the world, I'm sure that a good portion of them would be Indians.
Yeah, nice. Glad to know that. Yeah, thank you, Roshanji. Let's move to the next part, probably. Yeah. In overall digital transformation, if we see the current trends, right, the cloud technology is playing very pivotal role. And in the cloud, the SaaS model, right, which SaaS model basically in the cloud space are accepted across the industry sectors. And probably I love to hear what is your take on this in terms of the benefit, challenges, and the future of SaaS model in this technology industry.
Yeah, so I always joke and I tell people that look, I mean, I miss the e-commerce wave, right? I miss the consumer internet wave. I am currently on the SaaS wave, and I am super excited. And I think this SaaS wave will be orders of magnitude bigger than the previous startup waves, right? Because I think the world is SaaSifying, right? I mean, the SaaS itself is growing at 20% cumulative every year, which is a phenomenal number, right? But even so, it's not just the growth rate, but it's also the headroom for growth, right? I mean, if you look at a large enterprise, something like a large bank or an insurance company, what percentage of their IT spend is, SaaS? It's still very, very limited. It's still maybe, I mean, I would hazard a guess and say less than 5%, right?
Yeah.
So it shows you the amount of software that can really SaaSify and also the growth rate, right? So this is a killer combination. And that's where you see these kind of numbers happen, right? I mean, if you look at Atlassian, for example, which is the maker of Jira, and they recently acquired Trello as well, I think. Right?
Oh,
They're generating $3 billion ARR, right? $3 billion recurring every year, growing 37%, and they're generating $800 million of free cash every year, right? Which is again phenomenal, right? And you can look at Asana, you can look at Monday, you can look at plenty of these SaaS companies, right? I mean, which are worth probably like which are doing 200, 300, or even $1 billion of ARR, and they're still growing at an insane percentage, right? Insane percentage of 40, 50, even 70, 80%, right? So I think this SaaS wave is enormous, and also I would say it's it's pretty evenly distributed between, emerging and mature markets also, right? I mean, so the first thing we think of is, like, when you think of SaaS, I mean, you think of US, and you think of perhaps, um, let's say IPOing in NASDAQ or whatever it is. But I feel like the emerging markets as well have an appetite for SaaS. I mean, I was speaking to Avlesh Singh, for example, who's the CEO of WebEngage, and their entire focus right now with the product pivot that they're doing is to focus on emerging markets. So they're focusing on India, Indonesia, and those kinds. And again, they're not selling a $3,000 or $5,000 product. They're selling a $40,000-$50,000 product, which is pretty significant, right? And so I think it's kind of caught on, and if you look at the sales motions of companies itself, of startups, earlier the idea was you start out in India, then maybe expand to Southeast Asia, maybe Indonesia, Thailand, or wherever, and then you look at US and Europe, right? But that has become redundant right now, right? I mean, today, I mean, companies are US first, right? Companies are global first, and they're building sales, marketing, product teams to enable that, right? All of this is a confluence, especially in India. All of this is a confluence of three things, in my opinion. One is the fact that cloud infrastructure has developed and has been adopted widely, right?
Yeah.
Second, and on the cloud bit, I mean, again, right? I mean, really props to Amazon, props to Microsoft, right? Props to Google, props to all of them for helping larger enterprises, helping everyone adopt cloud, right? So that is one thing. Second is the payment infrastructure has caught up as well, right? I mean, so today you don't just have clouds. I mean, you don't just have cloud. I mean, you also have payment infrastructure where I can just put a card on file and pay across countries and continents, right? And finally, I mean, we always had this base of IT talent. We've been producing engineers for 30, 40 years now. And, one of the common refrains that I would hear, in the early 2000s or maybe late 2000s even, was that, hey, I mean, we are only good for services. Where are the product companies and so on, right?
Sure.
Well, I mean, it's a certain maturity curve, right? I mean, today we have enough talent to produce these product companies, right?
Yeah.
The ecosystem is mature enough, and that sort of virtuous cycle has happened where this base of IT talent is producing products and global products. And today, I mean, if you compare any Indian SaaS product with something globally, I mean, you can't tell the difference.
Exactly.
Really. And that's also not just because of the IT talent, but also product talent that has, come up, product and design talent that's come up over the last 10 years, right? Which is simply amazing. So yeah, I mean, a lot of interesting things are happening in SaaS, right? And as I mentioned earlier, I think the world is SaaSifying.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then customer, right? They have understood the potential of SaaS, right? It is a direct the cost benefit. It direct the basically on-demand service, and it is helping for the organizations to quickly adopt the technology and quickly roll out the product in the fastest growing way. And moreover, it is helping for fastest scalability purpose as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you look at any traditional business today, right? SaaS is eating at it. I mean, I was talking about this company called Amagi last weekend, and their entire premise was, we're going to take the power of cloud infrastructure for media companies. Right now, media, as you can imagine, they consume the highest amount of bandwidth, highest amount of storage, highest amount of compute. Right? I mean, perhaps this podcast that we're recording will be maybe a 400, 500 MB, or maybe even a 1 GB of size, right? And we're not streaming live right now, and so we don't have any of these latency issues, hopefully, right? But but otherwise, I mean, it's really, I mean, it's very very intensive, and what Amagi is doing is taking the power of the cloud to these traditional media companies, and not just in terms of like streaming and stuff, right? I mean, they're doing a bunch of things. They're also like helping them insert ads at certain points and so on, right? I mean, really, it's a blank canvas for them, and this kind of innovation is going to attack every traditional industry as well, and sooner or later everyone's going to really adopt it. Sorry.
Yeah, I completely agree. There is no other way organization has to adopt the SaaS model, because because at the end of the day, the startups or the new initiative that is happening in the industry, they are quickly adopting this SaaS technology and leveraging their product very fast. And unless and until this bigger
No question.
enterprise, come up with this kind of same methodology, I think they will be disappear in the industry, right?
No question about it, right? And I mean, I think going further, right, there are a few things that I noticed. One is the vertical SaaS. I mentioned Amagi for media, right? I mean, similarly, people are building software for banking, software for insurance, software for manufacturing, and so on, right? And this sort of vertical SaaS movement, I think it's going to build up a great deal, right? So they're marrying this, domain expertise with the technology know-how to sort of build a full stack solution for these industries, you
Yeah,
know. So I don't know if the traditional IT services model of going and saying, hey, we'll build whatever you want is going to be irrelevant for a long time, really, right? So uh, the other big trend is also this whole API economy that's opened up. I mean, if you look at the likes of Postman, what they've done, right? The simply there's just so many devices, so many applications. I mean, this whole connecting infrastructure has sort of evolved tremendously, right? And this whole developer tools market, whether it's even the pass as well, right? I mean, pass is pretty hot as well right now. um, Along with that, I think one of those perennial requests from IT teams was, hey, I mean, how can we do everything, right? I mean, how can we sort of we don't want you managing it. We don't want to come to you every time to sort of make these changes or build for my business. I mean, is there something that I could do myself? And now, I mean, you have this low code, no code sort of movement as well evolving, right? So I think all of this put together, right, whether it's the vertical SaaS, the API economy, the developer tools market, the low code, no code, and even some of the AI ML use cases that are picking up, right? I mean, all of this put together, I think we're just in the very, very nascent stages of SaaS, really. I mean, we
yeah,
have, like they say, picture abhi baki hai.
yeah, exactly. Picture अभी बाकी है. अभी you just think अभी आप सोचिए this one, right? आरोग्य सेतु app,
Hmm.
amount of users, amount of
Amazing.
consumptions, amount of infrastructure that is required for such a large scale customer across the, users across the India. And that would not have been possible without adopting the SaaS model. Don't you think so?
Yeah. No, for sure, right? I mean, what is it? I think 900 million users or something. Maybe not 900 million. I think half of that, I think probably around 400 500 million is what I suppose,
Yeah,
right? And yeah, I mean, in the early days of COVID, especially when contact tracing was such an important thing, it was so useful, right? I'm reading a book by this lady called Priyam Gandhi Modi,
mm,
called A Nation to Protect, leading India through the COVID crisis. And we also did a podcast with her some time back. Really, all of the technology infrastructure that helped us during COVID, right? Whether it was the Arogya Setu app or this whole vaccine and the technology delivery as such for all of these various schemes, right?
UPIs,
Really, I mean,
payment gateway.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, all of those things helped us a great deal in these 2 years.
exactly. Yeah, yeah, true. Yeah, Roshanji, I think you have very beautifully articulated again on this SaaS model. There is no other way. SaaS will pick up, and then we also need to very probably we need to be ready with the advanced model of SaaS, where we can think a more overall customer experience journey along with the SaaS product, right? So next question, probably, Roshanji, you have been engaged with our startup movement and also been part of our NESCOM and so on and so forth. I would love to hear about you, from you, basically, what are the current challenges for a startup? Basically, I know the Indian startup is picking up very fast, and their government also giving a lot of encouragement and so on. But then there is still some challenges, right? And and of course, post challenges, you also highlight some of the approach for overcome those challenges.
Right. See, one thing is that, I've been in the ecosystem for last 15 years, and I can tell you that, the startup ecosystem has, come a long, long, long way, right? I mean, आपको 2007 2008 में आपको चुन चुन के 4 या 5 आदमी मिलते थे ऐसे जो जो like who are doers, right? I mean, who have done stuff before, right? Abhi, I mean, you walk into any room and there is there's just an abundance of talent, right? I mean, Indian entrepreneurs today are so mature, and it's really amazing to see that, right? And you're seeing that in the kind of money that's flowed into the ecosystem as well, right? I mean, the highest amount of inflows over the last, I mean, historically highest, right? Whether it was last year or this year, I mean, again, we're trending. Last year, probably, I think around 40 unicorns. Maybe this year, we will probably hit 40, 15 unicorns. Hopefully, the macro situation doesn't deteriorate too much, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I feel like the time is now for us, you know. So the biggest problem for any startup at this point is to find a problem, find an idea that is worth solving for. You know, that is always the biggest problem, right, in any market, because that is one trap that, you know, entrepreneurs should avoid, which is that building a great product that nobody really wants, you know. And people do build that. So one thing to understand is your product is fungible, right? You can build any product, right? But you have to first identify the market and the idea, right? Who you want to build for, what is that, you know, really intense pain that you're solving, right? Once you fix on that, then you can kind of build around it, right? Especially in SaaS, because, you know, the conventional idea of, you know, I'll build a product, then take it to the market, then validate it, does not work today, right?
Yeah,
In
true.
fact, I feel like before you even build a product, you should go and validate it, right? Use a simple deck or a landing page, or just go talk to people, really try to understand people's perspectives, what they're doing to solve that problem right now. And that is important, right? Because if people today are not trying to solve the problem that you are trying to solve, then maybe they don't care about it, maybe they can live with the pain, right? So very, very important to, you know, sort of validate your problem solution before you go about like building a product, or before you go about hiring, before you do anything at all, right? Even raising funding, etc., right? So find a problem that's worth solving. And in India, there is abundance of problems, right? I mean, SNA, you know, we're living in a place where, you know, everything is solved for and everything is done. Literally, you walk out
Yeah,
of your doorstep and then, you know, you'll find hazard problems that you can solve for.
exactly.
But yeah, figure out what problem is worth solving, and also figure out, you know, how you'll get people to pay, right? Because see, that is important, right? I mean, how will you make someone pay for your problem, right? Not just something, and that will tell you whether it's a higher order problem, whether it's something that is really an important problem, or whether it's something which is like a nice to have, right? And God knows there are too many nice to haves in the graveyard of startups. I recently did a podcast with this person called Jen Abel. She's the co-founder of Jellyfish, and they, you know, they help Indian SaaS startups in the 0 to 1 journey, basically, and they help them in expansion to the US and so on. Plenty of insights on there. So, I mean, yeah, if folks are interested, you should definitely go check out that podcast. And also, I feel like the time is right now. You know, I mean, literally, I don't think there's a better time to start up. You know, because there is no loss as such, right? I mean, see, 10, 12 years back, I mean, your startup fails, then you're screwed, right? I mean, you have
Exactly.
to find your way back into corporate, and that can be a very arduous challenge, right? I mean, I remember having to explain my, you know, resume, my experience, my profile to plenty of startups before I, you know, joined Vymo. And it was a very difficult task, right? But today, I mean, you don't have that as such. You know, today more than enough companies are hiring failed founders. And in fact, I mean, they're paying a premium for failed founders, right?
Yeah,
So really, I mean, if you are a person who has an idea, who has validated it, then there's no reason for you not to start up,
yeah,
really, because you know, you don't want to be in a situation maybe 5, 10 years down the line where, you know, a similar product, you know, is built by someone else and they become a unicorn, and, you know, you
yeah,
have to live with it for the rest of your life.
yeah, yeah. True. Yeah, I completely agree. Because of the digital penetration that is happening in across India, right? The startup got a lot of advantage out of this. But nevertheless, as you rightly said, the finding the right product strategy and solving the customer problem will be the key area that any startup founder should focus. I hope your message, our audience will take it positively and do the necessary actions. Probably the last part of the conversation, Roshanji. Basically,
Just one
again,
second.
yeah.
Are you seeing any lines on my video, or is my video clear?
Yeah, your video is clear. There is something faint or anything is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how that happened.
Now it's gone.
Okay, it's gone. Perfect.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So probably next part of our discussion, right? So either it is a startup or bigger organization, even for individual sector, individual development, the culture building has become very essential today.
Very important.
Yeah, if you see the I'm from village of Assam, so I see there are a lot of opportunities. People have talent, but there is not a right culture of working culture, right? People don't want to put their hard work, and of course, the leadership is not have a great visions where they can empower the youth, and that applies to many part of India. So you being very closely associated with many communities, I would love to hear how, and of course, you are also associated with the corporate world. So I'd love to hear what kind of culture building initiative can be taken, starting from our village level and then of course the corporate level as well.
Well, I mean, that's a very important point that you bring up, right? Which is that, what can you do to make the right conditions, make it conducive for people to produce amazing results, right? And that
Exactly.
essentially is what culture, right? Culture is so important because, like they say, right? Culture eats strategy for breakfast or snack, whatever they call it, right? See, essentially, you want to make a place, worth being in. You want to make a startup worth working at. You want to create the right conditions for people's best talents to come up, right? Surface really, because see, the thing is today, especially, right? I mean, it's not like how it was 15 years back, where there were very limited jobs, at least for IT folks, and you either had to go into one or two or three different streams. Today, literally, the world has opened up, right? So, which means that interesting work today is table stakes, right? Everyone says that they have interesting work, and really, what is the differentiators? The differentiator is who am I working with, right? Basically, the quality of people, and also what is the culture like, right? Essentially, what people are trying to answer is, is it going to be worth my time? Will I develop? Will I grow personally in this circumstance, right? In this situation? Just
Yeah.
give me a second. I don't know why these lines keep appearing again. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So basically, that is what people are really looking for, right? I mean, they're looking for personal growth, and they want to work at these kind of places. I mean, if you look at maybe 2021, right? I mean, we had this whole great resignation in the US, right? Just in July alone, 4 million Americans quit their job. And, there were different surveys, by Microsoft, PricewaterhouseCoopers, etc. I mean, you take your pick of which survey you want to look at, that said that, more than 40% of the global workforce was considering quitting their job. Now, that's
Yeah.
a crazy number, right? And certainly, COVID has made things a little more difficult, right? Because now, as managers, I mean, you have to take care of your teams remotely, right? There is no osmosis. I mean, usually people learn from each other, right? And learning from each other doesn't just mean communicating about work. It's about understanding people. It's about watching people do their work. It's about having non-work communication, all of those things, and those things are out of the window, right? I mean, today, I mean, you don't have that. Although, how much ever you're trying to make those moments happen, it's very, very difficult, right? So it's extremely difficult, but it's also doable, and it's also one of those things that can become a huge differentiator for you, right? So couple of things that has worked for me, especially, I mean, at our startup at Vymo, right? And again, I can't talk for, like um, how would you do this at a city or a state level or whatever. I can talk to you about a startup level where I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
some
Please go
experience.
ahead. Yeah.
So I would say, first of all, you need to identify what things are non-negotiable for you, right, in your team. So in 2018, after I had made a very bad mistake on hiring, I remember sitting down late at night and writing down the values that I think are non-negotiable for us, for anyone to work here, right? So irrespective of them being like really talented, etc., if they did not if they did not value teamwork, for example, if they did not value collaboration, if they did not hold themselves responsible to the highest level of excellence, and if they did not have the kind of ownership that we required, then it was simply not going to work out, right? It was just a matter of time,
Yeah.
and those were the three non-negotiable values, right? There are plenty of other values that can be taught, right? You can teach someone communication, you can teach someone leadership, you can teach someone project management. All of those things can be taught, right? But you need to identify those core values that really matter to you as an organization or as a team, right? And now once you identify those values, you have to build the mechanism, you have to build the checks and balances to identify these values in people, right? Because जब आप इंटरव्यू करते हैं ना, मीन एवरीवन इज एट देयर बेस्ट, राइट? सब लोग हार्ड वर्किंग है, सब लोग सिंसियर है, सब लोग इंटेलिजेंट है, सब लोग ऐसे ही बोलेंगे, राइट? बट you have to figure in that interview process, based on whatever they've done before, right? How can you identify these? And so we have a set of 4, 5, 6, 7 questions for each of these things, right? Where we're able to check if that person is a tick mark on that particular value or not, right? And also, I mean, make your team part of it, right? I mean, you cannot have all of this yourself. You cannot identify or nurture or enable the best people yourself, right? You need to have a team that does this for you, right? So everyone on my team understands those values, and everyone on my team, when they're on an interview with someone, right, they are looking for those values. And if there is a red flag, I mean, everyone knows about it, right? Instantly, almost. There have been many instances over the last 4-5 years where we have seen someone who's excellent at their work, but we just thought, I mean, it would just not work out with this person, right? For X, Y, or Z reasons. And we've taken the call to, tell them that, hey, look, it's not going to work out, not good for you, not good for us. Let's probably move on, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like that is really important. You need to be strong-willed about it, because see, culture is one of those things I really cannot emphasize enough, I mean, because it's a 1 + 1 = 5 or 10 kind of a thing. It's not a linear thing, right? Because if I inspire you to work and you inspire me to work, I mean, we will end up doing the best work of our lives, right?
Yeah.
But on the flip side, if you are a pain to work with, then my work suffers, your work suffers, the team's work suffers, right? And so make it a place where people really like to work in, and build that kind of vibe, I mean, that's the one thing I would say, right? I mean, maintain that vibe in your workplace or vibe in your team that everyone identifies with, that everyone loves working with, and so on. So that would be my 2 cents on building culture.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the value system, it works well. I'll share my personal example, right? My father is a teacher or headmaster. In fact, during those days, there was not used to be clerk. So managing almost 15 teachers and their payroll and so. So apart from his teaching responsibility, he used to do a lot of administrative work, staying late at night. I think the amount of service or a sense of dutiness that he has demonstrated, that is always in my mind. So in my workplace, there is not related to any skills which my father gives to me, but those values, hard work, commitment to duties, it has been inherited to my life. I think, and that applies to you and everyone in one or the other way.
No, amazing, and thanks so much for sharing that as well, right? I mean, so I feel like the generations before, right? I mean, our parents' generation, maybe their parents' generation as well. Look, I mean, arguably, if you look at any quantitative metrics of whether it was workplace, comfort, convenience, everything, we are having the best of times right now, right? My mother worked in a library, my father worked in a factory, right? And it was as I mean, it wasn't the air conditioned offices that we're used to right now, where we work in front of a laptop, right? I mean, and it's not the kind of people that you would expect at any startup or whatever as well, right? I mean, all kinds of people, up, down, sideways, you are reporting to someone, and then plenty of complications as well, right? And like, for example, I mean, there are no unions here, right? And imagine working in a union kind of a setup, right? What that would mean. And there was a sort of a work ethic of that time, where you did a bunch of work because it was your responsibility to do that work, right? Not that someone was watching, not that uh, not any of those things, right? Not I feel you did that work for work's sake, and that's a beautiful thing, really, because my mother as well was extremely diligent, my father as well, right? And that kind of, I think all of us are very lucky to have such parents to have influenced us about about a sense of duty, about a sense of responsibility as well. There's so much we can learn from them, really.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think those value systems should be encouraged by elders of our society, and of course by the leaders in the organizations. I think somehow that part is slightly, I think there is a gap. And as you rightly said, we have to work towards that culture building, or that to
No,
building.
it depends on I mean, I don't want to make a philosophical point here, but it really depends on the kind of values that we demonstrate. We
Exactly.
as maybe demonstrate to the next generation, right? I mean, so we are learning from whatever our parents or our elder brothers did. I mean, what are the kind of values that we are demonstrating to the generation after, right? I always say that I mean, people can you can give the best, most sweetest advice, and you can give the best bhashan, but people will follow what you do rather than
Exactly.
what you say,
Yeah, yeah,
right? So you have to kind of lead by example, and that's where I feel the onus is on managers, the onus is on leaders
yeah.
to make sure that they're imbibing those values that they're preaching in the first place,
True.
right? So if, for example, if you say excellence, I mean, do you hold yourself to the highest levels of excellence, you know at all situations? I mean, when times are good, I mean, it's always good to say yes, I'm fine, but then if there's a constraint, right, then even in those cases, do you hold yourself to the highest levels of excellence? Yes or
Yeah,
no, right? And you have to kind of be honest about that, and these values have to be reinforced at every step of the way. Aisa nahi hai ki, like, once a quarter you do some kind of a jamboree, and then you discuss these things, and then people party, and then you move on. It's not like that. I mean, these have to be reinforced on a daily basis.
yeah, yeah. Action is speak louder than voice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Probably last part of the point, Roshanji. What do you think now? Because the continuous lifelong learning skills becoming mandatory norms today, right? Because of this fastest growing knowledge industry that we are living in. Uh, but then making work-life balance is one of the key challenges. What is your take on this?
um it's something that you have to really strive for, right? I mean, I have gone back and forth, and I certainly will get complicated once you have kids, and once you have larger responsibilities on the family side, for sure, right? And again, it's very important for us to be empathetic about those things, right? I mean, I have people on my team who are who have kids and so on, and I do see that they have uh, they have different needs, and it's important for us to be respectful of those needs, right?
Exactly. True.
um, I personally believe that you have to be great at whatever it is, whether it is family, whether it is work, whether it is your passions, or whatever it is. Don't settle for anything less. And so when you say that work life has to be balanced, like, I don't think that it has to be compromised on either front. People often have a negative sort of a connotation to work life balance, thinking that acha मैं थोड़ा कम काम करके, I mean, और थोड़ा family के साथ time बिताता हूँ, या you know
That is not
or I
going to.
mean,
Yeah.
no, it's never going to work, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's never going to work. I'm not say, see, sometimes, I mean, obviously there are some genuine trade-offs, right? I mean, if you have your child's some performance coming up, and then at the same time you have to go to a presentation, obviously, I mean, you will pick one over the other, right? Whatever it is, and there will be some genuine trade-offs, but on a daily basis, I think if you are there at work for 8 hours, be there at work for 8 hours fully, right? If you are back home, playing with your kids, be back home playing with your kids for the full 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever it is, right? It's very important because time is fleeting. One thing that we have realized over the last couple of years, especially, is that I mean, life is so fragile, right? I mean, we all know someone young who lost their life, right? And all of us feel that we're going to be here forever, but really, I mean, our time is very limited, right? So
Yeah.
I feel whatever you're doing, whether it is work or life or family or whatever it is, I think you have to be 100% sincere to that, right?
Yeah.
Even for fun, masti ka bhi, I mean, masti ka time, right? I mean, don't feel guilty that I'm watching some YouTube video, मैं कुछ series या movie देख रहा हूँ, whatever it is. I think whatever you do, I mean, you have to give yourself to it 100%, right? And then you will not have any regrets, I feel.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I mean, you're always trying to balance few things, right? Tough, I mean, like it will always play in your head, right? I mean, that, am I doing this? Why am I doing this? I mean, should I, be doing something else? And so on. I think a lot of the times we have to give ourselves permission to enjoy ourselves,
Yeah.
ऐसे, I mean, I feel like, वो childhood mein, I mean, yeah, childhood mein teacher or your parents would have kept like telling you, right, कि पढ़ाई करो, ये क्यों कर रहे हो. I think that voice is still there in our heads, right?
Yeah.
That maybe when you're having fun or whatever, you still hear that voice that, oh, I should rather be doing something else. So I think we all need to give ourselves permission to enjoy ourselves,
Yeah.
right, and be 100% sincere to whatever we're doing, anything in whichever sphere of life.
Yeah, I think you are trying to convey the message that the personal life or personal entertainment is as equally important to the work life. And I just want to share
absolutely. And yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I just want to share what Swami Vivekananda says about the happy and peaceful life. So I think I've shared with others also here. So he talks about the 4 areas where any person should focus on to make happy and peaceful life. One is work engagement, and second one is basically personal life balance, and third one is social life, and then fourth one is spiritual life. So when he talks spiritual life, it does not mean that staying in Himalaya. It's talking about something, a positive impact in the society. So,
Absolutely.
but furthermore, what he categorically said is these 4 areas: work engagement, personal life, social life, and spiritual life, like a 4 wheels of a car. Any wheels is more powerful or weaker, let falls the car or imbalance the car.
Correct.
So we should focus equally or in 4 areas to make our life happy and peaceful. I think apna Hindu philosophy or Indian philosophy is great. So let us, that is what I follow.
No,
we should at least try to follow. Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's a very nice nice way of putting it, right? And see, I mean, today it's very difficult, right? I mean, like I was saying, my mother had to actually go to the library to do work, right? My father actually had to go to the factory to do work, right? हमारा ऐसा नहीं है, I mean, हमारा laptop open करने के बाद, I mean, काम शुरू, right?
Exactly.
We literally can work out of anywhere. So which means that it requires greater amount of discipline to say that, no, this is work hour and this is like family time, right? Because if you are available to everyone and everything at all times, then you're available to no one and nothing then, right? So I think it requires greater discipline. And, I mean, I have seen, people at work, 45, 50 years old folks, right, who are amazing at managing, all of these things.
Yeah.
And you often feel like, how are they doing this, right? I mean, how are they managing so many different spheres of their life? And I think it requires a certain amount of discipline, and it's worth it. It's worth
even
it.
in our industry, if you notice, or even I have noticed, like those people who are very particular about their personal life, I mean, they are more successful in industry, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it is not, Roshanji, it was extremely insightful and valuable conversations. We talked about basically the startup journey. We talked about the digital transformation on post-COVID, and then overall organization and culture building initiative side. So I think our audience will take your overall message in positively and do the necessary steps. So I will look forward to connect with this kind of fruitful conversation or valuable conversation going forward. Until then, I wish you great success ahead in both professional and personal life.
Thank you very much. बहुत धन्यवाद. I think your questions were really amazing, very thought-provoking. And again, thank you to the audience as well for listening to both of us speak. I think it was a very engaging conversation. Wish you all the very best. Hope you have many more such bright and wonderful conversations with more people.
Yeah, thank you, Roshanji.
Thank you.
Look forward. Bye.